If you're a card maker and picked up a color cube to help you pick out colors, don't be like me and let it languish on your shelf. Pretty as the box is, today I'm going to show you the most basic way I use the color cubes to inform the colors for my card video. Hey everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my channel and studio. To see this card project come together and how I use the cube cards, stick around. That video is coming up next. So here's a look at the products I'm starting with today, and this is the card that I chose from my color cube. This is, I think, the collection number 1. And I liked this palette together. And again, nature makes combinations that, they tend to work. And these are not colors I would choose to work together. So the way I use these cards is, if I have a stamp set that I know there's going to be a lot of different elements stamped in, like this set from Concord and Ninth called Soda Lighted, which I think is so stinking cute. It's soda cans, and you can have punny little greetings, and there is a coordinating die set that you can use with the stamps, but also by itself. There's a lot of color options here. That's why I grabbed a card. The first thing I do when I pull out a card to use, and I need to do this more often because it gets me out of my ruts of choosing the same colors over and over again. What I do is I go pick the closest colors that I can find to what's in here. Well, I guess I should have had it in the other order, but that's for Jupiter. Midnight is the blue, Poppy is the red, and Watermelon is this sort of, I don't even know, corally color. I pulled Sorbet originally, and when I stamped a few Sorbet samples, it was just a little too, So this is a great time if you have swatches of your colors, which I have never stamp swatched my Concord and Ninth. I just kind of know them by using them. Note to self, I will do that. When you have, and here's my 2 for grays, because I'm going to use 2 different grays. When you have them stamped out, you can grab one of these color cards and just get your swatch book, open it up, and find inks to match as closely as possible. Then you just have to figure out what and where they're going to go. That is the trick today, so let's get started with stamping. I'm starting with a piece of Neenah Classic Crest, the 110 pound. I've got a waffle flower grip mat in my MISTI, and I'm going to use the Soda Lighted because I love the pun of it. I think it's really sweet, and we're going to start by stamping most of the can. I have played with this a bit, and it's really kind of cool how it comes together. And then we'll do elements of the can after I die cut. It'll all make sense, but let's pick this up. I've been playing with this stamp, so it's really nicely conditioned, and I'm starting out with the color that represents that on the card, which for me is Watermelon. So I'll ink this up, bring it down, and I'm going to use my smaller Stampin' Bug. This came in a 2-pack. I just like having something to add pressure to the door rather than my fingers. Oh, that's pretty. All right, I'm going to stamp it again to get a little more ink. I think my pad is a little dry. Sometimes I like that because then I can really control how much of the color ends up on the stamped piece, but I have refillers for all of my Concord and Ninth inks. Get a little more right in there. And I'm going to go 3 times because I really want this to have that same tone, and you can see how it's getting closer. But like I said, I tried Sorbet, and that was just a little too leaning into orange red. It just didn't quite have the same look. All right, that is my soda can base. Let me get this cleaned up. Just have my stamp chamois here. And we're going to move on to stamping the word soda. Now here, I'm going to line it up, but then I'm going to offset it purposefully a little bit because I like seeing a little bit of that white. And you kind of can't mess up an offset. I mean, I guess you can, but I feel like just line it up and then shift it over a tiny bit. So here I'm using the red, which is Poppy. Now I think Poppy is a little bit darker than that color on the palette, but it's a beautiful red. And here we are adding this to the can. And I will stamp this. See how it's just a little offset? I love that. And I love that that offset, I think it makes it look more hand stamped, if that makes sense. You know, even though, I'm using my Misty, which just makes everything magical. All right, I think that's nice. I don't think I need to do another. Okay, 2 on that. We'll clean this up. Next, I'm bringing in the To Know You stamp. And for this one, there's a little notch in it. I don't know if that will show up here. There's a little dip, and that is to compensate for the G descender. So it isn't a flaw in the stamp. It's meant to be that way. But before I fully do this, I'm going to test the placement. I have a couple of these little acetates that I keep just for this sort of thing. And I'm actually going to do this in light gray just to see where it's landing. Oh, that looks really good because it's easier to clean off. And the Midnight that I'm going to use is kind of a firecracker color. It's got a lot of color to it, but I think that's lined up very nicely. So these are nice to have. Just cut yourself a piece of acetate, you know, and this is a smaller one. I could not find my bigger one, but I put washi on them just so they're not hard to find because they can be. All right, Midnight. This is such a good blue. Oh, I love it. And again, these are not colors that I would gravitate to. Oh, look at that. That looks great. I just don't gravitate towards palettes like this. And I think that's the best part about the color cube. And I know if you're like me, a lot of people get the color cube and put it on their shelf because it's pretty, and then you forget about it. So I'm trying to remind myself every time I have a stamp like this that has multiple things that you can stamp to make sure that I don't forget about the color cube. I am going to grab the part that says lighted. Okay, this is the little scripty. And again, going to try to line it up perfectly and then shift it up a tiny bit. I'm looking, my little head's going to get in the way, or my big head. So there's that. We'll just come up a little bit. And I'll stamp this in the juniper. So we're using, so far, all of the colors that we have. This comes down, that gets stamped, and I think I might do it one more time. This does dry back pretty nicely, so it's going to be lovely. Okay, because right now the navy looks pretty similar to the juniper, but the juniper has a great dry back. Now is the time that I'm going to cut this out before I do the other pieces. There are 2 can dies. You can use both for this project, but I'm using this one because this is more of just cut this out and cut the hole out at the top for the opening at the top of the can. And so I will grab my cutting plates, place this down, and then just do my best to line this up. And it's pretty easy to see how it goes together. I feel like if you just focus on this little down here, well, does that make sense? This little down here. Yeah, just kind of place it. Now, even though my mat is magnetic, I do like to tape my dies when it's something I want to cut really well so it does not shift. And now I'll run this through. All right, take that off, lift this off, and I'll show you how cute my can is. But I'm not going to dispense yet of this little piece because I want to use the opening. Oh, come here, tape, to help me position, it doesn't really matter, back into my Misty so I can stamp more details. I'll place this back in, press it down so it adheres to the grip mat. And also, I wash my grip mats probably once a week or twice a week, depending on how many things I have stamped and embossed, because what can happen is your anti-static powder can get all over and it reduces the stick of your piece. So up top here, there's a little notch that you can see, and you just line that up in the opening. That. And I think I'll pick that up. Well, wait. Yeah, I'll pick this up, and then I'll get the other one at the bottom too. And then the bottom, you have a little piece here. It's this stamp. And this goes down here. So we're going to do these in gray. And you know what? I don't think I need to do any placements. Oops. I don't think I need to use my piece of acetate here. I mean, you can if you want to get technical. I think this will be really cute. So I'm going to use Pebble for this. So we ink up this and this, come down and transfer Pebble. Now this, oh, that looks good. Good enough. This smooths out really nicely too. So don't be worried if the inks you have maybe don't go perfectly smooth at first, because look at how much this has changed just in the time that I've been making this card. And this will get lighter too as we go. So I have my first gray down, and then I'm going to add some more details. I'm going to keep this stamp too, because I'm going to add, is that the shadow one? Let me see. I'm looking. No, it's not. Never mind. I got to find the right one. There's a stamp up top on the sheet. It is this one. And that you can add some darkness to the top of your can. So again, you line up that little hole right over the hole like that. And I'll stamp this one separately because I have to do it in a different ink. Here is where I'll bring in the cobblestone just for something a little darker. Again, press. And honestly, I don't think that needs to be stamped again. I think that looks really good. All right, we'll let that stand as is. And now bring in this little detail for the top of the can. And I'll be doing this in the poppy. Let's kind of get that lined up. Yeah, I think that will be good. And drop it down a few times. I don't want to smush because the lines are very delicate and detailed. But now we have the can stamped out. It's kind of fun, right? And here's the palette. We have literally repeated it with that palette. Okay, so there's more because I have done some die cutting. Now I can lift this up, pick up my can, because we're actually going to use our can to hold a flower. So let me get the die cuts and show you what I've got planned. I did a few things off camera. First, I took this soft snowfall embossing folder and did a panel, because what does this also look like? Bubbles. So I've used this folder a lot in videos. I think it's just great, and it always seems to look wonderful when I do it. By the way, the sandwich that I'm using these days for my Anna Griffin Impress, I take one clear plate, I take the embossing folder and put the paper in. I learned that from my friend Amy Risavi, and it has changed my life. So that is the folder. And I trimmed this down to be, I think, let me double check, 3.5. 3.5 by 4 3/4. And I pulled some juniper cardstock. Then I also took the dies from the set and pulled out a few things here. So again, we're still working within the colors, right? I have my watermelon, my poppy. I decided to go with white for the center of my flower and a little bit of greenery because I'm going to stick this flower into my soda can. And I added some foam tape on the back as well so that that could be popped in and set up. So let me turn on some music here and we'll glue these things together. not sure if I'm going to use that extra greenery, but I am going to score my juniper note card. And I'll bring in my scoring tool here. Just get that right in at 5.5. So this is going to be a top folding USA2 note card. Pull that down. And I'll take my, I have a new Teflon bone folder. Well, it's not, it feels like Teflon. It's from Altenew. And I'll just get that on there. It does not seem to leave any mark on the cardstock. I'm also going to go ahead and do the back with my logo stamp. This is just a self-inking stamp from rubberstamps.com. And I like it because it's easy for me to line up. And apparently you can re-ink them, so that's all good. All right, let's zoom in here. I will tape my card closed. I think I actually trimmed it a little off. Let me trim that. Sometimes it bums me out, and so I'm just going to bring in my new paper trimmer here and just go like that. And that way it's nice and even. On the panel, I have some foam tape here on the back. I just think this panel or this embossing folder is really all-purpose. Just for texture, I've used it for winter-themed cards, but I think this is so cute for soda. I'm going to stand up here and just look right down over the top and pop this down. And now what I need to figure out is how we are going to fit our flower, because this is going to, oh, I see. This is going to come in. I think I'm going to need some foam on the back. I want this to fit on the can. Oh, yes. That's going to be great. So the can's going to go right at the bottom, and then the flower is going to come right into the margin, which is what I was hoping. I will need a little more foam. So we'll take this off. And actually, I probably could put a couple or little tiny pieces right up here at the top. There, like that. Take these off as well. I don't know why I'm using my jewels to do this. Sometimes I'm just feeling it. And we'll add liquid glue to the back so that I have a little bit of float time before everything sticks. And I know that this needs to be centered and pretty close to the bottom. I think that looks good. I love the colors. Again, not something I would consider doing. Not a palette that's in my brain at all. And now I think I will put this piece right in the center of that flower. I don't think I have room for that one too, because I think that's just going to be too much. So let's see. This is going to slide down. I could even cut this a little bit because it's not going to need to be all the way. And we will add this, again, a little liquid glue. We're going to add this, slide it down right into the can. Oh my gosh, I think it's so sweet. Like that. And that juts right into the margin. That's so fun. And that is the palette. What's fun here is that if you have all of these lovely sort of colors in cardstock and ink that both match, you can have a lot of fun with this. Now I'm trying to see, could I have slid one back there? I mean, I still could if I wanted, but I don't think this is adding much. No, I don't like that. All right, just a single flower in the can, soda lighted to know you. And that is my finished card for today, showing you how I used a Color Cube color card. You can find links to all of the products from today's video in the YouTube description box, and I will also have a link in the description to my blog post with photos, and the supplies will be listed over there as well. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, I'd love to have you, so please hit that subscribe button and be sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss the next time I post. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you back here with another card project soon. To see more card projects where I used color cube cards to inform my choices, check out the 2 thumbnails I have linked below, and I'll see you in those videos.